Howdy my peeps and welcome. Today I'm going to be redrawing this drawing, which is the first page of my sketchbook, on the last page of my sketchbook. But before we get into that, I would like to give a shout out to Sunny Citrus, who is the comment of the week. Thank you so much for your comment. I like reading y'all's comments, and if you would like to be the comment of the week, all you have to do is comment under any video. That could have been you. I would also like to encourage you to like and subscribe if you like what you see over here. As per usual, my Patreon, Etsy, and also the list of supplies that I use are listed in the description. But anyways, the very first thing that I did was I sketched out some ideas, but I also was sketching to kind of warm up. I haven't drawn in a little while outside of just a few small sketches, so I definitely needed to warm up before I actually jumped into the final piece. I decided to do like a big full page drawing, unlike the original drawing, which was just a character sketch in the center of the page with a bunch of different sketches around it. And I also wanted to make sure I did it in full color. I wanted a full page of color, and I really like how it turned out. I don't typically use a lot of color in my sketchbook, so it's definitely a welcome and very nice addition to it. Whenever I add color to my sketchbooks, I typically use Copics. Even though the paper that I use in my sketchbook isn't like for markers, it kind of works out. However, this time I was kind of in the mood to use watercolors, and this paper does not take watercolors very well. In fact, they kind of like bleed almost like markers do, which is kind of weird, and it also warps a lot. The paper's like really thin, so it's kind of understandable. But with all that, I still was like, I really want to use watercolors today. I haven't used watercolors in a while as well. I've been doing a lot of digital stuff, especially, you know, with the Etsy shop stuff. I just feel like I've been just doing a lot of digital stuff, and so I was like, you know what, I really want to work traditionally. And whenever I have that feeling, it's also like, yeah, let me pull out the watercolors. For whatever reason, whenever I use Copics, I kind of feel like therefore, which isn't true at all, it's just really just a me thing. I kind of feel like, oh, this is just for quick, easy art that's gonna be like, I don't know, like a 30-minute drawing type thing. Watercolors to me feel like more of a commitment, and whenever I pull out my watercolors, it's like, yeah, I'm really about to sit down and draw, you know. So, and I really wanted to make sure that I wasn't rushing this piece, because sometimes I do that. My sketchbook is for those types of drawings. My sketchbook is for quick, rushed pieces, and for warming up, and for just getting out ideas. So yeah, it's if I had done that, it would have been in the spirit of the sketchbook, but I still wanted to make sure I did something a little more extravagant, you know, especially since I haven't done it in a while. I've been really into using ballpoint pens for sketching for a little while now. I kind of go through phases with what I like to sketch with, and it's ballpoint pens at the moment. So I kind of just instinctively use it for the line art without even thinking. I forgot to check to see if it's Copic proof. Turns out it kind of is. I had a little smudging later on her blouse, but it wasn't anything too bad, especially with the color that I used. I ended up using like a dark red and a red color, so it wasn't super noticeable. And it didn't smudge at all in the hair, which was really nice, or on the face, because those would be the places where I would be a little more concerned. Face, because it's like, that's kind of the central point of the picture, and the hair, because it's I was coloring it with a really light color, so obviously I wouldn't want it to smudge, but it ended up being really fine, and I appreciate that because I really do like using ballpoint pens. The ballpoint pen I'm using is just a plain Bic one. They're super cheap and easy to find, and they're just really nice for sketching and stuff. Of course, you can't erase it. That's the only con, but I find that sketching with a ballpoint pen has kind of helped me with confidence when it comes to drawing, because you can't erase it. You have to commit to the bit, and I feel like it's helped with my confidence. Is that a thing, line confidence? I think it is, but yeah, it's definitely helped. I jumped right in with the watercolors. I didn't do any swatches or anything. Normally I'll have like a little sheet of paper to use for swatches on the side. I didn't even have that. I don't know what I was thinking. But I think it kind of worked out because I feel like if I had swatched, especially on this particular paper, I think that would have deterred me from finishing. Because like I mentioned earlier, the watercolors bleed really weirdly on this paper. It's not like feathering where it just kind of bleeds out. It like bleeds through the paper. And like you can see the color on the other side, kind of like how markers bleed. So it was really weird and interesting. And because of the weird way that it would bleed, it would also kind of, if I put a color in a particular place, it would stay there, and I couldn't really use any lifting techniques that I typically use with watercolors. So whenever I put a color down, I really had to commit, and yeah, so that was a little risky, but I am glad that I used watercolors today. I haven't used watercolors since March, so it's been a little minute. And before then, I think like the last time I used watercolors on my channel was the last time I used them before March, and that was 8 months ago. So what was that, October? Man, that's crazy. So yeah, I definitely haven't used watercolors in a minute. And I remember the last time I used them and the time before then, I was feeling very clumsy with the watercolors because it was just so out of practice because I just hadn't been using them so much. As much rather, because, you know, digital art is just super convenient. You can just whip out the iPad and draw in bed. Whereas with watercolors, I feel like I have to sit at my desk and commit. So, yeah, I feel like I have to be a little more serious, you know, and carve out a chunk of time to make sure that I do it right. Or at least my idea of right, I guess. I don't feel like there's like a right or wrong way to do it technically, but you know, I'm special. So even though I knew that this paper was challenged when it came to absorption, I still went in the same way that I typically do whenever I'm working with watercolors. I like to work with lots of layers. I quickly realized that that was not going to work with this paper. Especially by the time I got to layer 2/3, which is essentially the layer that you're seeing now. Yeah, this paper could only take so much, and I was really afraid that if I started layering too much, that the paper would really start to fight back and maybe even start to kind of tear up a little bit, especially since, like I said, it was bleeding really weird through the back, like it was wet on the other side, which is like understandable, the water's soaking through. But I was like, I would really hate to accidentally tear through the page because I can be a bit heavy-handed with my materials. So it's like, you know what, I probably should be careful and not do that. But I am glad that I used watercolors, even though the majority of this piece ended up being Copics in the end. The watercolors that I did end up putting down kind of serve as an underpainting for the rest of the Copics, and it kind of adds some undertones to the skin specifically that I could add with Copics. I could, but I'm scared. So I'll just keep doing it with watercolors in the future. They're a little more forgiving. Less so on this particular paper. But yeah, whenever I try to do that same technique with Copics, I end up going a little too overboard and the colors end up looking off, which is my bad. So using watercolors is definitely a safer option for me. However, one day I'll learn how to actually do that with Copics. I think part of my issue is that I just don't have enough range in terms of the colors that I have. I think I need some lighter colors. I have a lot of mid-tone colors and darker colors. I have some really colorful, bright colorful Copics that I have like stashed away because I realize I just don't really use those type of colors in my art. I purchased a lot of my Copic markers early on. I want to say 17. Yeah, I think I was 17 years old. So my tastes have certainly changed in that time, and I have a better idea of what colors I gravitate towards. At the time, I was just kind of getting colors that I felt were just basic colors, like red, pink, yellow, you know, and I wasn't really, and just getting markers for skin tones. But if I were to purchase Copics now, I would approach it a lot differently. I would get a lot more muted colors, more pinks. I only have like 2 or 3 pinks, and they're not my favorite colors. Yeah, a lot more muted colors, some more bluish greens. It's kind of hard to think of it off the top of my head. I only think I have like one purple Copic, and that's just because I don't use purple in general, in my art in general, a whole bunch. So actually I think I have 3 purples, but one I put away because it's kind of a bright pastel. That sounds incorrect, like an oxymoron. But it is like a pretty bright pinky purple, which is a cute color. I just don't use it in my art a whole bunch. And then I have another one that is good for shadows, and it's more of a blue violet type color. But yeah, I just don't use purples a lot. And I just need a lot more lighter colors in general, and that would help a lot with the kind of under painting thing that I do, which is why I'm having to use watercolors instead, because I don't have those colors in Copics. So those would be light pinks, light blues, and really light yellows. I don't plan on purchasing any new Copics anytime soon though, so I'm just gonna keep doing my little watercolor technique in the meantime. Here I'm just using some Prismacolors and I think a couple of random Faber Castell Polychromos pencils to add a little more detail to the face and correct some of the shading in some places. Here I ran into the same issue that I was just mentioning with the Copics not having enough range. I just bought like a 24 pack of the Prismacolors around the same time I was getting a bunch of those Copics, so it's been a while. I just don't have a lot of skin tone colors to use, and I run into this problem quite a lot whenever I'm doing this. Whenever I'm this particular step in the process, I'm like, man, I should really get some more colors to kind of fill in the gaps, but I never do. So I kind of just work with what I have. I use like a peachy color, pink, and I have some random browns that I kind of use. The issue there is there's just a bunch of mid-tone colors and some random light colors that are just a bit too light for what I'm trying to use them for, but I somehow make it work every single time. So probably not going to be getting any Prismacolors anytime soon either. Plus, whenever I'm at the art store, I always forget about the things that I need, and I end up getting distracted by all the fun new things, and I get those things instead. Or if I do remember to get things that I need, I can't remember which colors I need, and I have accidentally purchased doubles like that before. So I just need to be a little more organized with my art supply collection, I suppose. I used the Posca pens to color in the jewelry because I definitely colored all over those with the Copics and the watercolors, and they're supposed to be pearl and gold, so I had to go with the Posca pens to kind of bring them back to the forefront just a little bit. And I'm so glad that I have Posca pens, because before I would just try my best to color inside the lines, which I'm very bad at doing. So Posca pens save me a lot of times because I'm able to just kind of go over things and correct things. Like for example with the hair that's kind of framing her face, totally colored over that with the Copics and watercolors. So adding the white Posca pen over it to kind of bring it back was really, really nice. I was actually kind of scared to do it because I wasn't sure if the white Posca pen would be a good choice, because once again, we've been over this. Past me is really bad at picking colors, so I don't have any light pink Posca pens. I don't even know if they have light pink Posca pens. Posca pens are different. They have a less extensive color range than Copics, and I think even Prismacolor. So with those, it's a little different. That one is less so a skill issue on my part. I didn't really love the Posca pens either way for the whole covering up things that I've colored over reason. But the white Posca pen ended up being a wonderful addition to her hair. I tried to add a little more pink over it with some Prismacolors. It didn't work as well though, so I kind of had to nix that idea. But the white still works fine. It still looks pink in the context of the rest of the image, so it's fine. But anyways, this is how the drawing turned out. I really like it, and I had a lot of fun drawing it. It was really nice to sit down and just zone out, listen to music, and draw. Inshallah, I'll be uploading a sketchbook tour next week, but if you can't wait that long, patrons do get early access to my sketchbook, and they get better quality pictures of it. So if you want to see that, you can head over to my Patreon. Anyways, shout out to my patrons: Merriman Illustrations, Sister Donna 55, Kelsey, and a Spooky Rose. Thanks so much for being my patrons. I really appreciate you and everything that you do. Wow, oh my goodness. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video, and please enjoy the rest of your day, my peeps.